Hello everyone, you're welcome to this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bablet Jonathan. Common law lawyers in the Republic of Cameroon rise against what has been qualified as an attack on the common law heritage in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. In a letter addressed to the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, the common law lawyers have said an attempt to promulgate into law the civil and commercial code in the two Anglophone regions of the country will be considered as a deliberate attempt to muzzle, not only muzzle, but to subjugate and assimilate the two English-speaking regions of the country. And civil society actors and, of course, economic stakeholders of the private sector decry the slow and ineffective implementation of resolutions of the Cameroon Business Forums. The different 9 editions have seen over 200 resolutions taken, but 150 have so far been implemented and 50 are still on the waiting list. And they decry administrative setbacks as major hindrances, or one of the major hindrances to economic growth and efforts to improve the business climate in Cameroon. They were speaking during the 10th edition of the 2019 edition of the Cameroon Business Forum going on here in Douala. We begin this newscast in the southwest region of the country, where we're going to show you the ugly face of the Anglophone crisis that has continued deepening for close to 3 years today, with devastating and deadly impacts on the population in the English-speaking parts of the country. For me, Armstrong Sander has more.
Few vehicles, motorbikes and people on one of the major streets of Kumba, the economic capital of the southwest region of Cameroon. Streets and major road junctions in the city, like elsewhere across the northwest and southwest regions of the country, used to be busier before the start of the Anglophone crisis. On Mondays and other ghost town days, inhabitants usually practically stay indoors, leaving the streets sometimes to few insane people, like the case of Kumba on this day. Grounded socio-economic, socio-cultural and political activities is just one of the ugly faces of the Anglophone crisis, as killings is now part of daily life in this part of Cameroon. One of the hard-hit sectors is education, as schools remain down since 2016. The government's military option to solve the Anglophone crisis, observers say, further worsened matters, as repeated sound of the gun shut down the remaining schools. In an effort to stop or avoid getting it wrong, the Cameroon military in Kumba reached out to one of the last standing schools in the city of Kumba, Government High School Kumbambeng, with didactic materials and other technical equipment.
We know that it is part of the system that has been seriously damaged because of the crisis.
Accompanied by the senior divisional officer for the Meme, the items were received by school administrators and students of this school, who saluted the gesture. The commander of the Operation Shakal in Kumba, who led the visit, said their visit falls in line with the concepts of the army and the nation.
And administrative authorities in the two Anglophone regions of the Republic of Cameroon continue intensifying efforts to mitigate the devastating consequences of the Anglophone crisis on education. Southwest Governor Benau Kaliabilai has encouraged some of the students of Government Technical High School, Booyah, who have been braving the security challenges, to go to school. He was speaking during the open door day of that institution in the Southwest Regional Chieftain, Booyah, where our correspondent files in details. Derijato.
Government Technical High School, Booyah, is one of the few schools operating in the conflict-hit Southwest region, and today the institution has organized a 2019 Open Door Day. Officiating the ceremony, Mr. Bernard Okalia-Bilai, Governor of the Southwest region, said taking into consideration the present security challenges, this year's event is more than just an Open Door Day.
We are here to celebrate knowledge over ignorance, bravery over cowardice.
But observers say they still witness security dispositions, especially at public ceremonies, is an indicating factor that the heat brought by the Anglophone crisis is still on. In his welcome address, the principal of Government Technical High School Booyah, Mr. Lyonga John Efande, pointed out that his institution is in need of equipment for practical works. At the motor mechanics department, for instance,
current links the battery to the ignition coil. The ignition coil helps to step the low voltage from the battery to high tension and send it to the distributor.
A student explicitly explained how an engine operates, but this same student has never seen one. A report said the engine sent with this toll box since last year from Yaoundé is still on its way to Booyah. And also present were primary school pupils.
It is from that at that stage that students start deriving interest in the areas of specialization for the future. This is why we think that we should arouse their interest on the activities of technical education and the raison d'etre for technical education.
To this administrator, a nation's foundation is in its technical know-how.
In 2016, when lawyers took to the streets protesting against some issues concerning the common law heritage of the Northwest and Southwest regions of the country, the peaceful protest met with a stiff and violent resistance from security forces. And after that, some issues were put on the table and discussed, and the government provided solutions to some of the plights of the common law lawyers, notably the translation of the Uhada law, providing the English translation of the Uhada law. And close to 3 years as the Anglophone crisis has continued deepening, the lawyers are now rising up against the possible promulgation into law of the civil and commercial code in the two English-speaking regions of the country. This is considered as an attack on the common law system, and the lawyers have written a letter to the President of the Republic on this, demanding that something should be done to stop this attack, which is considered as an attack on the common law system. Details in this report by Innocent Azi.
The letter addressed to the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, recently with 102 signatories, all common law lawyers of the Cameroon Bar Association, bears disapproval feelings to the ongoing attempt to force on the two English-speaking regions a civil and commercial code which is at variance and in violent opposition to the tenets of the common law legal system. To them, the enactment of such a code will lead to civil, social perturbations and destruction of the Anglophone body fabric and heritage. The common law lawyers remind that since the reunification of the two portions of Cameroon, successive constitutions have directly sanctioned the coexistence of the English and French legal systems, that is, the common law legal system and the civil law legal system in the country. Common law lawyers emphasize that Article 68 of the 1972 Constitution states that the legislation applicable in the federal states of Cameroon and in the federated states on the date of entry in force of this Constitution shall remain in force insofar as it is not amended by subsequent laws and regulations. Thus, the legal system can be described as bijural, in which French laws are applicable in the 8 French-speaking regions and English laws are applicable in the 2 English-speaking regions of the country. The common law lawyers write, any attempt to cause the proposed civil and commercial code to be enacted and to be applicable in the two English-speaking regions will tantamount to the erosion and annihilation of the cherished common law heritage of the English-speaking regions of Cameroon, and will also be considered as a move by the 8 French-speaking regions to assimilate and subjugate the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon. They strongly recommend government should desist from causing the proposed civil and commercial codes to be applicable in Anglophone Cameroon.
Innocent as a reporting there, and this information just streaming into our newsroom. One of the administrative assistants in a law firm here in the economic capital, Douala, has been sentenced to 15 years in prison by the Douala military court over charges of terrorism. Marcel Amabo was among 4 persons who were being tried at the military court over charges linked to terrorism in connection to the Anglophone crisis. 2 of the 4 persons who were being tried at the Douala military court have been sentenced to 15 years in prison, and of course the other 2 declared acquitted by judges of the Douala military court. We'll be coming back to this in the greater details, and as I indicated earlier, Marcel Amabo was an administrative assistant in a law firm here in the economic capital, Douala. We will be receiving the lawyer of the detainees, so the persons concerned here in this newscast. Onto something else now. We now talk about the United States Under Secretary of State for African Affairs, who is on the Cameroonian soil. He has met with the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, and he is in Cameroon after the United States released its 2018 report on the state of human rights in the Republic of Cameroon, notably concerning the northwest and the southwest regions, where the Anglophone crisis has been pulling on for close to 3 years today, and of course the security challenges up north with the Boko Haram affair in the far north, and of course the issue of kidnapping, and of course kidnapping of persons in the Adamawa and in the north region of the country, and the Seleka rebels who have been making sporadic incursions in the east regions of the country. And it should be noted that the United States condemned the ongoing atrocities in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, accusing the military and of course pro-independence fighters of committing the atrocities, killings, abductions, burning down of houses and villages in the two Anglophone regions of the country. He discussed a wide range of issues in connection to relations with the Anglophone crisis, and of course relations between Cameroon and the United States of America. And he qualified President Paul Biya as an exceptional statesman, notably appreciating President Paul Biya's wisdom and intelligence. And I told you in the headlines that economic operators of the private sector in the Republic of Cameroon are decrying the slow and inefficient implementation of resolutions of the Cameroon Business Forum. The 10th edition is currently going on here in the economic capital, Douala, under the chairmanship of Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph Dion-Kuti. In the last 9 editions, 200 resolutions were taken, and until date, 150 have been implemented, and out of the 150, only 70 are considered by the World Bank in its 2019 Doing Business ranking. And of course, Cameroon lost 3 positions, moving from the 163rd to the 166th position, an indication that the business climate in the Republic of Cameroon is not getting better, as however indicated by business operators of the private sector, who blamed the situation on administrative setbacks, including slow and cumbersome administrative procedures, as well as corruption and other issues plaguing the administration in the Republic of Cameroon. On to something else now. We talk about the last fire incidents at Marché Congo here in the economic capital, Douala, yesterday. Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph Dion-Kuti was there to make an on-the-spot evaluation of the devastation caused by that fire incident. We have details in this report. Cameroon's Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph John Goute, puts his hands on the deck to ensure that the fire history of Marché Congo in Douala stops repeating itself. He has come to make an on-the-spot evaluation of the damage caused by the last fire incident that consumed hundreds of shops in this market.
There's been a lot of damage caused through fire in this place, and it has caused a lot of people pain, suffering, and money. It's a tragedy that we don't want to see repeated.
Prime Minister Joseph John Goute reiterates government's determination to speed up the construction of a modern market on this site in a bid to avoid such catastrophes in future.
I'm happy to see the plans of the draft project, which is going to be a PPP, a private-public partnership, to do a good number of stores which will be secure and which would in the future ensure that we don't have the kinds of fires that we've had in the past. We'll do whatever it takes to ensure that there is a speedy construction of a proper modern market in this area.
In the meantime, the Douala City Council is said to be making plans to relocate the traders affected by the fire incidents to the site where the former Cameroon Radio Transmission Center was located several years ago. And the traders are calling on government to assist them in order to help them, of course, relocate to the new site being prepared for them by the Douala City Council. Coming up next is Talking Point. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us in Talking Points. We are receiving Barrister Tamfu Richard, member of the Cameroon Bar Association. You're welcome, Barrister.
Thank you, Mr. Babila.
You are the lawyer of Marcel Amabo, one of the persons who have been, one of the two persons who have been sentenced to 15 years imprisonment. What's your reading of that court ruling?
Well, I really feel very sad because when you see someone who is standing trial over charges of terrorism, which we consider it to be very serious offenses, we really want that some sort of seriousness should be followed with respect to the hearing of a case. I'm really very surprised with the sentence of 15 years imprisonment, which I think to me is very high. With respect to all what was adduced in court, we also heard it was difficult for the prosecution to establish a case, but it's really a regrettable solution. It's really a regrettable situation that we the Anglophones have to face following this crisis. Sentencing somebody for 15 years is not 15 days. I really wonder if the judge really took upon herself to examine the law and the conscience to really found this person, Amabo Marcel, guilty. To me, I didn't see it. Well, as a lawyer, the only option that is left for me is to go and appeal for that decision, which I will definitely do. And I hope that at the level of the Court of Appeal, the judges who will sit for the case will be able to see that my client is innocent and that those charges or that sentence can be waived off.
All right, now let's talk about the common law lawyers. You are a common law lawyer, and in 2016, some of you took to the streets protesting against some issues that were considered not applicable within the common law system. And now a letter has been written to the President of the Republic, using some hard words like an attempt to assimilate, an attempt to subjugate the common law system in Cameroon.
This is not the first letter that common law lawyers have written to the head of state. This all, if we go back, memory back, we will discover that common law lawyers gathered sometime around May 2015, and they filed in a memo when they started witnessing how French magistrates were transferred into common law jurisdiction, and the magistrates were not able to function or to work. We sent those memos and it fell on deaf ears. All attempts could not yield any fruit, and we are all conscious that the present Anglophone crisis in which we are today is as a result of the government refusing to address professional revendications which were tabled before her in time. Lawyers went to the street to ask for some measures which the government thought it no. The best way to answer is to tear gas them, to send police people to harass and beat them up. Today we are all witnessing a situation that could be solved from the very first beginnings. This is another issue that is coming up with an attempt to promulgate the civil and commercial code. It is no news that Cameroon operates in a bijural system where the French-speaking regions of Cameroon operate what we call a civil law system, and the English-speaking regions, which are made up of 2 regions, operate the common law system. It dates back from our colonial heritage. So I don't see how today the government is like trying to merge or harmonize those 2 legal systems and to form a civil and a commercial code. If really that law has to be voted in place, I tell you that the situation will be catastrophic, because
just to understand well, what is the problem with the civil and commercial code?
The civil and commercial code, I want to say that it is a code which wants to come into play to settle issues of a civil nature and a commercial nature, drawing inspirations from the French civil law system. So if that code has to be applicable in Cameroon, you will see that there will be a lot of Anglophones will not feel comfortable in it. Just like we have the other legislations on business law, which since its promulgation or since the treaty was signed, we have not had English translation of those texts. Imagine how Anglophones are trying to cope to understand how business laws is being practiced in, for example, in the Southwest and Northwest, when the text itself was not translated. When lawyers went to this, we called for a protest march that these texts they need to be a translated version of this text for them to better apprehend it. The response was negative. So this code, which is about to be promulgated, if it has to be, for example, we know we have in the common law we have the Matrimonial Causes Act, which is a majority of it talks about maybe family law and all the like. We have some practices with respect to landlord and tenants which are applicable in the English-speaking regions of Cameroon. So if they have to harmonize these areas of law and code it and codify it, it will not be comfortable for common law lawyers.
And is qualified in the later address to the President of the Republic as an attempt to assimilate and subjugate the 2 English-speaking regions.
Yes, I support those terms strongly, because that is exactly what is about to happen. Because you will not tell me how you will have to bind or harmonize 2 separate legal systems, whereas the Constitution itself is saying that it is cognizant. It knows that yes, we have some diversity in our cultures, linguistic.
But and the 2 systems must be respected.
Exactly. So even the Constitution protects that. So if today they want to harmonize and make civil and commercial law and codify it into a code, to me, I think there is no other better word to qualify it than to term it an attack and an assimilation.
All right, before we go, you are a common law lawyer, and as a common law lawyer, look at this camera and talk to the President of the Republic.
Well, the President of the Republic, if I'm before you today, I really plead on you to take particular attention on the objection that has been raised by common law lawyers. Do not allow your collaborators to handle it as they did with the other revendications that were made before. We appreciate the creation. You yourself, you saw that it was necessary by creating a common law section at the Supreme Court and also at the level of the ENAM. So, meaning that the head of state actually knows that there is a problem, and that these two systems of law need to be guided. So I pray that the head of state should personal attention to this objection that has been filed and make sure that what is about to happen should not be, because that will be another chaos for Cameroon.
Thanks, Barrister Tamfu Richard, for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.